Ortega, Korean Zombie, where do you begin? I mean, right, when you tell a story after the story has happened, what is there to talk about? In most part, well, not so fast. This is one of the great parts about talking about a fight when it's done. Okay, you have the story before the fight happens. You have the story of the fight. But something always happens after, but it never gets told. It's lit on fire. Doesn't matter how intriguing it is, it's lit on fire because the sport only moves in one direction, which is forward. And then you miss some of the good parts of the story. Okay, you have to understand going to this fight. Ortega has been out 2 years. How long has Ortega been out? 2 years, almost 2 years since that Max Holloway fight? A lot of things happen in that Max fight. One thing that happens within this sport that I do not believe is true for any other sport, which is the more you do it, you do not get better at it, you get worse. Okay, now there's a tipping point. There's a tipping point where, yes, you are still experienced in skill building. I understand that. But generally, to use basketball, more basketball games you play, the better you get at basketball, just by example. And then put any sport in there you want except fighting. You leave a part of yourself in the ring each time. You don't take more with you. So if you back up to Ortega's fight with Max, it was a massacre. I mean, anything that could go wrong went wrong. And there's only a couple of things in fighting that are going to be very scary. One of them is if you cannot protect yourself on the feet with an opponent and you do not have the ability to take that opponent off his feet, and that's what happened to Ortega. Ortega talked about it. He said, I've never been so tired. I couldn't raise my hands up. I couldn't protect my head up to protect my head. I couldn't lower my hands to protect my body. I was just a target. He was very open about it. But if you do take into account the exhaustion, and then you juxtapose that with the layoff, things do not get better by not doing them. That means he's going to get more tired in this contest. And a combat athlete, biggest fear is not losing. His biggest fear is exhaustion. That I will reach a point of fatigue when I can't finish the match, or I can't follow the number one unified rule, which is to protect myself at all times. That's what happened to him against Max. So now you're left with a question of how could he possibly be better after a tormenting experience like that and a layoff? Then Ortega was very open. I love the open guys. Anytime a guy's open with you, even if he's saying things that you would perceive to be counterintuitive, such as he's questioning himself, such as I changed my team, such as I wasn't doing things right before, but now I am. When you start to hear these things, it's going to make you question the athlete, but a little bit more trained ear will show you that when a guy is being open, it's like any problem. Take alcoholism. It's just an example that you would know. The first step to recovery is admitting that you have a problem. So when Ortega was coming out before this fight and he was saying, man, I got my heads up in the clouds. All of a sudden, I'm this famous fighter. Ortega was doing movies, by the way. By the way, I saw it. He was actually quite great in his role. Should mention that to you. And he said, I kind of left the people. I kind of left the people that were around me. I found this new group. I just, my head got big. He said, I realized what I had done wrong. I went back to all my entrusted inner circle. They welcomed me in, said, happy to have you back. And boom, that was that. But then you're left to question, is he telling the truth? If everything he is saying is happening the way he's saying it's happening, he's going to be in a good spot, at least in theory, as long as he's telling the truth. So he comes out against Zombie, and Zombie is so good. Oh my God. Zombie's just tough, right? Zombie is the persona of tough. He's not going away, period. 5 rounds, 5 minutes, 35 minutes, an hour and 5 minutes. Zombie's going to be there for the duration. And he was. This was not a case of the Zombie had a bad night. That's not what happened. Zombie got knocked down. He worked his way, scrambled back up to his feet and started trading. He was just a step behind. And we could talk about it till we're blue in the face, but a fight is nothing more than a dance in that one person can lead at a time. That's it. And a lot of times the fighters will have this unspoken deal. All right, it's your turn. You get your combo off. Okay, now you stand there. Let me get my combo. Okay, you get yours off. You don't want that to be the case, but that's usually the case. You can't be doing offense and defense at the same time. So you go on defense, you see the other guy's offense, he puts 4 or 5 punches together, bop, 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 bop. Now it's your turn to come back. It's just the way that it works. The really good fighters, bop, 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 and then they'll get out of the way. So now when it's your turn to go, there's nothing to hit. Now we play the footwork game, bop, bop, bop. I come and touch you again, I move, but this is the game that we're playing. Ortega played this game all night long. Any question of Ortega, can he go 25 minutes based on the fact that in his previous fight, which was 2 years ago with Max, he had a hard time going 25 minutes? No. Ortega was there for the long haul, and he played a very smart game. He didn't just go out and use up all that energy with some of his grappling and looking for submissions. He had respect for Zombie. As a matter of fact, the one time that Ortega was on top, knocked him down and came on top, he used ground and pound. He didn't try to pass the guard, look for a head and arm choke, and try to find some of these moves that he's likely, as good as he is at grappling, he's likely to not find on somebody's experience as the Zombie. But that shows a smartness, right? That showed a strategy, and that showed a composure. Brian Ortega is very young, guys. Don't forget that. Just because he's fought for world championships and you guys all love him, sometimes this guy's young. This guy 28 years old. He's got a decade left on the shelf. He's got 7, 8 years in a bad scenario left on he's a very young guy. So for him to show this kind of composure, particularly after the very brutal defeat that he had. I mean, if there's any term that's been corrupted over my lifetime, it's the term fighter. It's now about the punches and the kicks and the reach and the power. And a fighter, when I was growing up, is somebody that got up when it was hard to do, that pushed forward when they didn't want to. You know the mental toughness that it would have required for Brian Ortega to get up for a fight that's not as big as his last fight. His last fight was for the world championship in front of a sold-out arena. Now he's going to fight in front of nobody in a contenders fight. That alone. The mental toughness that it would take for Brian Ortega at a youthful age, who's now getting roles in Hollywood, to go, wait a minute, these aren't my people. These are my people over. What have I done? Get in the car, knock on the door, say I'm sorry, and be welcomed back. I mean, this shows a real maturity. Brian Ortega deserves so much credit right now. He really does. And I've seen higher-paced fights from Brian Ortega, but I've seen sloppier fights, right? I mean, there's a balance there. Does he want the oohs and ahs of the people, or does he want to go out and win this round and win the following round and become the number one contender? Then Volkanovski comes on the back of it. Volkanovski was so happy. He didn't care about Ortega. He didn't care about Zombie. Volkanovski comes out and he goes, finally, we have some direction. And you know what? I get that too. Volkanovski's got a bad rap. Volkanovski is the currently most disrespected world champion. Bellator, UFC, Ryzen, PFL. Volkanovski is the most disrespected champion today. And it's not because he's not great, and it's not because people don't acknowledge his greatness. So as people are questioning his 2 fights with Max, of which he did what he said he was going to do, when he said he was going to do it, under the unified rules, and he lived with the result. He is the champion. And he's also one of the only champions that, to use his own word, had no direction. Nobody knew who was next. And at 145, there's a lot of great options, but nobody knew who was next. Finally, Dana steps forward as a leader and says, this is the boom. Puts his finger on the calendar. Winner of this fight's going to go into Volkanovski. And apparently, that is Brian Ortega.